Alright, what's really going on? Bitcoin, cryptocurrency today. Going to be taking a look at Litecoin, LTC against USDT. Going to be taking a look at some of these key technical aspects of price action moving forward. Going to be assessing some of these pivotal areas of support and resistance I believe we're going to be interacting with in the very near future here. Price action appears to be having some daily closes below that 177 support line, suggesting some potential bearish price action, some potential downward could present itself before we make our way back up again. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Do you trade? Do you hold? Or do you let the price action unfold? What's your thoughts on kind of price action moving forward? Do you think we've solidified resistance and we're heading down to potential support around $116 or maybe even lower? Or are we going to bounce, print some higher lows, and make our way back above 177 to interact with the $300, $400 range? Now, jumping right into it to kind of assess price action that has interacted with this ascending trend line that has kind of supported this very bullish kind of like past year that crypto has had, and Litecoin has been making its way up, coming down to this ascending trend line to find it as support as we interact with obviously key like horizontal support and resistance levels. This 177 support line, which was very significant resistance, became very significant support, and now I believe it is very significant resistance again, is going to be very pivotal moving forward, and price action is going to be very volatile upon interacting with it. Falling below the $177 line with these daily candles closing below that line entirely, I do believe we could very well interact with some kind of like lower levels here, and my kind of most bearish target is going to be kind of like $116, which could cause this sideways to be kind of more prolonged, and we could find our way bouncing between 176 and 116 for a period of perhaps weeks before we continue upward. We do have kind of a couple examples of price action kind of making its way kind of like downward and sideways for like a period of time before kind of making its way upward. Like upon interacting with significant resistance at a swing high, usually takes us like tens of days of consolidation downward, and then probably like a month total to kind of make our way kind of like back up past that significant resistance that shot us downward. Here we have an example of price action trading very sideways over the period of like more than a month, almost 2 months kind of thing, upon kind of breaking significant resistance. And it seems as though once we break significant resistance, we like to return to it as support. So upon breaking this zone of $206 to $226, we interacted with this upper range of 303 and 334. Upon interacting with resistance at those levels, we came back down to the 222 to 207 kind of range there, and confirmed it as support to kind of move forward to bring ourselves back above that ascending trend line. We set some higher highs, some swing highs past that resistance around 333, but momentum changed very abruptly, and the market switched direction, and things broke downward very aggressively. Even though we were looking so bullish and price action was looking to find its way up, we broke downward. And so I mean, realistically, we are still up quite a lot from where we were at this time last year. So I do believe we are ultimately still long-term bullish in my opinion, although some continued sideways accumulation or some sell-off might be necessary for the uptrend to continue. Now, when we consider EngineeringRobo, we can see a new perspective come into play. We have the Fibonacci lines here signifying some kind of very significant support and resistance moving forward. I do believe the 0.236 line correlating with my $116 level, $115.92, is going to be that kind of significant support moving forward. I believe we could find our way back down to it. We have the 0.382 line at $172, just under my $177 resistance level there, which is going to be solidifying. That's a very significant set of resistance. And so in addition to that, we do have the 200 daily moving average just above that at $184, and so price action being below that 200 daily moving average is going to be quite the bearish technical sell indicator in my opinion, and there's going to be quite a high amount of technical sell pressure as we interact with that kind of 200 daily moving average. And the more rejections we have off of it, the more time it might take for this sell-off to kind of play out. We have the sell for and hell coming into play as price action is plummeting all the way through significant support, which could have been found at the 0.5 line at $218, 0.618 line at $264, and the 0.786 line at $330. So I believe we're going to have plenty of resistance moving forward as we do find our way back up to the $300 to $400 level there where we came from. I don't believe price action is going to recover as vertically as we did kind of fall from there. I do suspect we're going to have to kind of step our way, support and resistance style, kind of through these ranges before we can get to that kind of $400 kind of like swing high that we came from. Like I said, with the kind of like sell to and hell there, price action being below the 200 daily moving average and so much resistance found between kind of like 172 and 177. I do believe like the more we get rejected from that level, the more likely we are to find our way down to that 0.236 line at $115. I do believe before we can consider a reversal forming, I believe interaction with this FOMO zone here up at $464, I believe has to occur. Like if we start getting some significant resistance kind of at like 413 where we kind of came from, then perhaps we could be more long-term bearish, but ultimately this does seem to be just a retest of a kind of like upper phase of accumulation. Now, when we consider Litecoin against the price of Bitcoin, we can see a new perspective come into play. When we consider price action falling through support, what it could have been around 45.05 Satoshi, I do believe we're going to make our way down to 41.33 Satoshi to print hopefully a higher low relative to price action on the 23rd and 24th of May, bringing us down to these kind of lower ranges here. Tons of buy pressure still. We recovered very quickly from that kind of drop, although I believe the sell-off is kind of like still playing out. And like I said, I do believe we're going to make our way to that 41.33 level. We could ultimately find our way back down to 37.33 Satoshi, and which could suggest some perhaps like longer phase of accumulation that could play out. But ultimately, we can be more short-term bullish if price action holds 41.31. Now, when we consider EngineeringRobo, along with the Fibba Zucchini Illuminati lines of symmetry and geometry, we can see a new perspective come into play with all these big and scary sell suggestions against the price of Bitcoin, which is looking, not too bullish in my opinion. We could be quite short-term bearish if price action stays this way against the price. If EngineeringRobo stays bearish against Litecoin's price action against Bitcoin. We do have interaction with that 200 daily moving average and a very tight range between the 0.786 line and my 45.07 Satoshi level. That's going to be a very significant kind of set of resistance moving forward. I do believe interaction between these levels is pending, and we do have that 200 daily moving average, which is going to be a very pivotal, bullish or bearish technical suggester in this kind of like upcoming weeks here. If we find our way below that moving average, we could be bearish enough to push our way down to that 37.27 Satoshi level. Support found at the 0.786 line at 42.78 Satoshi. We could still be kind of like long-term bullish. But the longer we stay below that 200 daily moving average, if candles start opening and closing below that daily moving average, I believe we can get some very aggressive technical sell pressure over a course of kind of a few weeks. The 0.618 line, the 0.5 line correlating with a large zone of resistance. I believe we're going to have to build momentum enough to kind of break through. And then we have the 0.382 level at 62.43 Satoshi, by resistance at 66.97 Satoshi, and then swing high resistance around the 0.236 line at 69.61 Satoshi. And so there will be some very significant resistance, I believe, between that 0.5 line and the 0.236 before we interact with that kind of swing high again. Ultimately, we're going to need to see where we can find support down here. I do believe, like I said, the trend is intact. Long term, I can still be quite bullish in my opinion. Ultimately, some short-term sell-off and accumulation might be necessary for the trend to continue. But when we consider Bitcoin against USDT, we can see how this crazy price action is playing out. We attempted to find support, bounce off of that 32K level, printed this kind of lower high, some resistance found, between 37K and like 38.5. And so that was a pretty significant lower high, bringing us all the way back down to what appears to be that 0.5 Fibonacci line at $34,318. That's going to be a very significant support level if we can hold there. That it might be support significant enough to bring us all the way back up to that 0.618 line at 41,500 and to that 200 daily moving average at 42,200. Although, even if we find our way all the way back up at these levels, the resistance present at this range is going to be very significant, and it could very well send us plummeting back down to where we came from. My most kind of bearish target is going to be the 0.382 line at 27,111. I do believe fundamentally we are bullish enough to hold above that range. I believe 32K might be a pretty decent bottom if we break 34K at 0.5 Fibonacci line. We could find our way bouncing between 32 and 34 for a period of days to a week before we can find our way above 34K again. Ultimately, I do believe fundamentally the trend is bullish long term. Bitcoin is still in very high demand at these levels, and we are still up hundreds of percentages since kind of this time last year. And so I mean some perhaps some prolonged sideways and sell off might be necessary for the uptrend to continue, as what goes up must come down. Nothing goes up vertically, and what does tends to come down kind of the similar manner. And so thank you for hearing my analysis. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? What are your thoughts on kind of price action moving forward? What are you doing with your bag? If you have one, do you trade? Do you hold? Or do you let the price action unfold? What is your kind of plans with this kind of crazy FUD-filled time in the crypto sphere here? Thank you for tuning in. Try EngineeringRobo free with a link in the description. Check out all the other social media down below. Subscribe here on YouTube and tune in for the next one.